Humidus podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Humidus podcast with me, Hammer, and my two good boys. It is
Hi there, Steph here.
and
Dankin.
yes, good to hear. And today we're gonna talk about the recently released jewel of a game. It is Ghost of Tsushima.
My lord is
Yeah, you guys have been like drooling over this game this last couple of weeks.
this game though. At first, when I saw the the first impressions and these kind of things, like the first trailers, I was like, all right, this can be cool, but I don't really know what to expect. It could be kind of sort of Assassin's Creedy, like with the checklist gaming and these kind of things. But
Yeah,
I honestly, after playing it, all they do for atmosphere and these things and the story, everything like that is essentially, in my opinion, it does what Assassin's Creed did, but better.
Mm-hmm.
That's what this is. They just perfected the formula and did it better.
right.
I agree.
Probably, I think it's gonna be, Valhalla is gonna have to make a really good argument for why to play that over Tsushima.
Yeah. So for those of our listeners who don't know how the game plays and like what the formula is, can you just like briefly summarize?
Well, it's it's open world, and it takes place in the 1400s of Japan. It's like an island outside of Nagasaki called Tsushima, where in real life as well, it was the first area where the Mongols landed when they were trying to invade Japan, and that's also kind of like where the setting is, where essentially you are a respected samurai who joins the force that kind of goes to meet the enemy head on when they first land. But of course, that goes to shit, and because the Mongols, it was the Mongol Empire, and the samurai were very few on this island and everything, so of course they get absolutely wrecked. And you kind of sort of become a survivor, and you tangle with to what extent you follow the honor, system of the samurai, of meeting your enemy head on and always looking them in the eye as you kill them, or you adopt more survivalist strategies, such as assassination and using, other tools and poison and shit like that. So, in response to that, you kind of just go around. You do a lot of run of the mill sounding. Like on paper, it's pretty run of the mill open world checklist gaming, because you liberate outposts and you have side quests. You have you gather materials for unlocks and upgrades and these things. But it's just something about how it all feels and the art design and everything they add on to make you immersed.
Yeah.
That's what really makes the difference here for me. And just like it's so smooth as well.
Yeah, well optimized.
Yeah.
Well running. So Dankan, what is like the most defining feature of the game for you?
That's kind of hard to pinpoint. I think I've said this before, and I'm not sure if we've touched on this, but it's kind of the whole thing about being a samurai, like just walking into a camp and just shouting something in Japanese and like challenging the entire camp to a like face-on fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember watching the first trailer with kind of the jewel under the tree with the burning house in the background.
Yeah.
And I saw the comment and I thought like this has to be kind of like in-game animated, right? Not like actual combat.
Yeah.
The combat is so smooth. I'm blown away by this game in so many ways.
Yep.
There are times where I just stop and I kind of watch the environment, and I can't believe that this is the PS4 running and not sounding like a spaceship.
Yeah, and that's
like
something too, right?
like
The
like
like
smooth FPS. It's just it's insane.
yeah, yeah.
You also play on a PS4 Pro, right?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, same
but
here.
still, I would still expect it to be not that good.
But Steph, you play on a regular PS4.
No. I play on a Pro as well. So,
Okay, yeah.
but
So we don't know
yeah,
how it sounds.
I've heard some like reports of let's say some FPS drops in certain
Mhm.
areas.
Hmm.
But I assume that was on normal PS4 because I never really noticed any kind of frame rate drops on my PS4.
Me neither.
Mm,
So, or maybe
yeah.
they patched it. Who knows? But like for me, it was always smooth, solid. I guess 30 FPS. Um, and it's just like the game, like you said, like the game is like unbelievably pretty.
Hmm.
And the grass and everything, and there's just so much that can be in frame, and the draw distance, like holy fuck,
Yeah,
you can see across almost the entire island without any slowdown. And it's just like you see all the smoke and the pagodas and all the architecture and the trees, the different colors of the different forest and all that. You can just see like these vast fucking beautiful sceneries. And like the grass, I gotta mention the grass again because it's so lush and
yeah.
it's so, it's just so well made. And sometimes, especially if you go in, in the southern part of it, like the
Hmm.
starting areas, the starting island, where there's more grass and there's more, like, it's very tropical, like that area, like all the grasslands and the flower fields and all that. It's just, it looks amazing. And this is the first game I've actually bothered to use the photo mode because you can create wallpapers in this game, I found.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's that pretty. Okay,
And
so we've kind of been like painting it in a fucking shining golden paint now. Is
yeah.
it is it anything that you didn't enjoy or that you kind of want to nitpick on?
No.
No.
Well, me being me, there are some things.
Hmm.
Um, I would say that there are some technical issues here. There's some jank that shows up at times, and as
Hmm.
it got more prevalent later on in the game. Because like when it works perfectly, and 90% of the time it does. Like, I'm not gonna fault them. This doesn't detract from the overall experience at all. That's just the preface. But there are times where I felt like sometimes the parry button wouldn't be responsive, like, or I would get stuck on some geometry, or I would just, like, there's some small janks here and there, but it's like it's very nitpicky. But sometimes I would die because of it, and
Mm.
it might be me being a plebeian with pairing timing and those things, I thought at first. But as it went on more and more, it was just like sometimes it was just like it felt as if the character didn't do what I wanted him to.
Mm.
Mm.
But like I said, this is very nitpicky, and it only happened like, you know, it didn't happen often at all.
I
But I
did
think,
not notice any of those things. I
oh, okay,
mean, maybe some of the geometry stuff that were very,
yeah,
very rarely.
yeah,
Steph,
yeah,
you know what that means? You're a plebeian.
yeah. Now it's sounding more like a learn L2P issue.
Should have
Yeah.
finished Sekiro, my friend.
Yeah.
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 How's the or kind of difficulty wise? You mentioned parrying. How is the combat? Maybe Dan can to answer this one.
Mm.
The combat is best played reacting to what the enemy does.
Mm-hmm.
I would say.
Okay. Yeah.
Usually you're only engaged with one enemy, and they kind of take turns. Sometimes you get attacked while attacking another enemy,
Mm-hmm.
and unless you're like deep into an attack, you can usually parry. Uh, at least if you get a perfect parry, which is pretty precise timing. With this, I played on hard, so I at least for the first part of the game, I had to be very careful.
Yeah.
If you you like adapt to like use the four stances correctly and switch between them at all times, you can just plow through enemies pretty quickly, and like you have other items that makes combat pretty trivial, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Like the kunais are fucking broken,
Yeah. They are.
but it still feels fun, you know. And
Mm.
I'm not. Maybe it's me because I kind of finished each area, like sweep the map before I continued. So I had like the best sword and stuff before I started Act 3, which is the final act.
Mm.
Yeah. So since you're a completionist, you kind of felt that it was a little bit more trivial towards the end.
Yeah, because I've
Or
heard people talk about like sword sponges, right, towards the end.
yeah,
But that I didn't feel that. Maybe because I was so overpowered.
you just kill them. You just kill them in like a couple of slashes. Yeah. Yeah, well, but that sounds, positive. I mean, some people like that you can get overpowered if you're willing to just, farm and scour the map for the most powerful items and perfect combat.
Yeah, and to me, like the running around the map and doing like minor objectives, it didn't feel like a chore
Mm.
No.
to me.
I agree.
Just because it was really enjoyable, and like when you kind of try to get experimental with all the items, like you see a pack of Mongols, right, and instead of challenging them, you run up full speed on your horse, you jump off the horse, and you throw a bomb below you, and then
Mhm.
like chain assassinate the entire squad. You 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 kind of feel really cool.
Yeah. And that's
That
like yeah.
I have a different tactic on that one. That felt equally satisfying to me. Whereas if I saw Mongol patrol, I would casually grab my explosive arrows and fire it in the
Yeah,
middle.
yeah,
That was pretty funny too. Not as cool, a little bit cheap, but it was fucking satisfying.
Yeah, so there are like a lot of variety in the combat system. You
Yeah.
can kind of tackle it the way you want to.
The amount of times I died because I tried to kick people off ledges intentionally instead of ending it fast.
Right.
I all in all, I would compare it to like the later Assassin's Creed games.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you run around stealthy until you get caught, and then
Mm-hmm.
you kind of end up in like react to your opponent's attack and then parry and then kill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I guess that's more on the because you played on hard, because on normal it was still quite challenging. That like you still cannot take a lot of hits before you die, but
Mm.
it allows for a more. I could also play as long as I got the stances right and everything. I could still play pretty aggressively without reacting. But if it was like an overwhelming amount of people at me at once, then usually it's like backpedaling and just like reacting and counterattacking. But if it
Mhm.
was like a normal Mongol patrol, you can easily just like fuck them up by
Yeah,
just
you
knowing the
can that
mechanics.
in hard as well. Like
Mm.
it's only the like in Act 3, it's only the shield enemies, which
Ah, yeah,
you can't kill them after breaking their like posture or whatever
yeah,
in one like rotation. So they get up their posture again, and you have to do it
yeah.
once more.
True.
All the other enemies usually died from like getting their posture broken once.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
Does
Because
all the enemies have? Yeah, every enemy in the game has a posture,
yeah,
right? A posture meter.
pretty much, except for
Yeah.
archers. I
Okay,
think
archers.
ranged enemies don't.
Okay.
But they have kind of their own like gimmick. It's just a part of the combat, I would say, because they shout like "Yo, so!" and then you
Yeah,
have to
yeah.
you dodge because they shout for their Mongol like fighters to duck, right?
Yeah,
So you just have
Okay.
to react to that and dodge.
Yeah. Right.
That's how you know, and it's
So
actually
you can.
It's really cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
and you get really used to that dosho
Yeah,
sound for the Mongols, and then as soon as you hear that, you just like tap the dodge button once, and that
yeah,
means that no matter where the arrow is coming from, it misses you.
Yeah.
But after a while, you get a little bit one up because they change their tactics as you move. You progress through the island because you get introduced to more elite enemies, not only in terms of like health, but also in their moveset.
Yeah.
So
Right.
suddenly the archers will be like they'll rapid fire 3 arrows,
Yeah.
or and stuff like that, and then they'll get like poisonous arrows and fire arrows and these things. So. But I like that though because it felt more like because a lot of games have these things. Assassin's Creed, they have these things where it's like artificial
Yeah.
means of buffing the difficulty, where they just make the enemy hit harder and tank more. But in this game, they also make them more elite, so they give them new moves. They give them maybe some slight changes and tweaks to their weapons or moves that so it actually feels like you are facing more elite enemies as they would be in real life, like better trained soldiers, and you can see it on their equipment as well because their armor gets more ornate. And I mean, the first Mongols you meet, they are clearly, a little bit special needs.
Okay. Yeah.
And and they also look like they came out of the slightly less well off districts of Mongolia. But yeah,
Yes.
I
Okay.
just like that they took they add some details to make it feel more
Genuine.
yeah
Yeah.
more immersive as well.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. Well, what was the best part of the game for you, Steph? The absolute best part.
oh wow, that's a good. Let's see. I mean, there's a lot of good things here, but do you mean like a scene, or do you mean like
You can choose an aspect of the game. You can choose one specific scene or a quest or whatever you want.
one of my favorite parts of the game is I'm not gonna go too heavy into. I'm gonna try to avoid spoilers here. But the scene where it's essentially you're attacking a castle, and you've already established yourself as the ghost, so you're using fear as tactics and stuff, and you're kind of doing this alongside people that haven't seen this, and then
Mm.
you get to fucking Jin just obliterates and fucks up this gang of Mongols with fear tactics and shit, and then
Mm.
this whole battle sequence essentially is awesome, but also just that scene where other people get to see what he's become.
Yeah. Right.
And he kind of has to come to terms with being viewed differently, and this whole thing, like that whole mission, is probably my favorite part of the game. One of the favorite parts, because I was like, whoa, this was really well done, and it was it really sticks out to me. But there's a ton of those in the game.
Mm.
But a lot of it I can't go into because of story spoilers.
Mm.
But I thought the story had some really powerful and really well made moments. Made me
Yeah.
really
So
impressed.
that was gonna be like my next question to both of you. What kind of story are we presented with here? Yeah, you don't need to spoil too much, but just try to explain what kind of story you can expect from this game.
Let's say it's a lot about how far are you willing to go to protect what's important to you. Like how many boundaries are
Mhm.
you willing to cross to get the job done? Like, does the end justify the means? That kind of story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's
and
kind of, are you willing to uh, kind of go against what's expected of you?
Hmm. To get the results.
Yeah.
yeah,
Because it's about the Bushido code, right?
yeah,
And that stands like really high in this time period, right? Essentially,
yeah.
you're a
Mm.
traitor if you don't follow it.
Yeah, at least
Hmm.
in the romanticized version,
Yeah.
that's in this game. So I don't know how the actual samurais were, based on the video that I sent you the other day with the expert. He was
Hmm.
he was just like, it does not matter how you do, just to kill them, you know.
Yeah, he said. Yeah, he was like, if you are one against many, Just kill them.
Yeah, it was so good.
But I think
So-
that you hear that a lot when people romanticize like the samurai way of life.
Yeah.
People often say samurais, they were just like swords for hire, basically, or just life bodyguards for rich people.
Yeah, but they were also rich themselves. But then, like,
Yeah,
there
sure.
was, but they are highly romanticized for sure.
But
They
keep,
were like the best fuckers to protect you.
but keep in mind that our protagonist here is a lord, right?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
It's like, I guess he's the lord of the next, like, family after the governing family of the island.
Yeah, probably around second in rank.
Yeah.
Because you have the Shimura family that rules the island, and then you have the Sakai clan, which he's from, which is
Mhm.
seems like a close second.
Yeah.
But there's so many cool family. Like that's also a thing that I really loved about the game. The whole that they actually show you the culture. They introduce you to the culture of the other clans that are on the island as well. Like, one it was really feared for their archers, and
Mhm.
some were like for swordsmen, and like. But now it sounds very trivial. But the way it's presented, it's it sounds like it's natural. It's
Mhm.
it's really well fleshed out, and like it was really cool whenever you also a bit of like a touch on how you said that even the smaller tasks don't feel like a chore. Like when you an example of that that really worked for me was when you pick up the sashimono banners
Mhm.
and you hand it to the monk, and then he's trying to write down because these are like the banners from the clans that got defeated, and he's collecting them to kind of honor their memory. And like Jin explains to him stories of how they were and why they were famous and such, and
Yeah.
he records them down. And those parts, like I love that. It was so well done, and it's like it was just a tiny thing too. And I discovered it at the end, but
Mhm.
I after that I just went and got all the banners just to hear all the stories, and it was like it was so worth it too.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a lot of they really reward you for taking your time and doing all the other chores as well, because there's so much world building going on here, so much lore that it's given to you in a good way, in a natural
Mhm.
way.
Yeah. And like that kind of mechanic is used often in games, but sometimes the world just isn't interesting enough to
Yeah,
want to go and explore and find these tidbits and story kind of secrets.
yeah,
Yeah.
So that speaks a lot to the investment that you basically love the setting and like the story and the world, so you want to explore further and just to learn, even if it's not like a upgrade for your sword or your kunai or whatever.
yeah.
It's still like worth it just for the story, and that's a really good
Mhm.
sign for the world building, I guess. And yeah.
Definitely. But yeah, so you got the platinum, right?
Yeah.
How long did that take you?
I'm not sure. Probably I would say somewhere between 30 40 hours.
Right.
Just guessing.
Good.
'Cause I had a couple of days where like I got up and played like 7 hours before I went to work.
Yeah, it really is that kind of game though. You just like get so immersed into it, and you want to do long play sessions.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It really is like that. And I did the same. I didn't get to platinum. I still have some. I did a lot of the side stuff, but I didn't do all of it. I didn't finish all the fox dens and these things, but
Mm. You
but
also don't need to get at least with the collectibles. You only need to get half to get the trophies.
oh,
Like half of each category.
then I'm probably not that far off then.
No.
What was there any reward for reaching the platinum?
Yeah, you get an outfit, or you get a special die for the ghost outfit, which is it's so fucking cool.
Really?
Okay.
I
Yeah,
didn't know that.
it's really cool. And then you get a text box that appears on your screen, which says
Mhm.
somewhere along the lines of you have fully and thoroughly explored the island of Tsushima, and you are now accustomed to all its ways, and something along those lines.
Mm. Oh
There's
man.
there's also a couple of like weird achievements or trophies, like the hidden ones.
Yeah.
There's one you have to dress as Sly Cooper.
Oh yeah. That's true.
Mm,
I heard about that.
yeah.
Sly
And
Cooper.
I'm not sure if you've seen the hidden Shinto shrines.
Which one of them were
You
hidden
you
again?
you you, you come across shrines, or isn't shrines? There's like a little wooden board with a picture of a man bowing, and if you bow
Uh,
there, something happens.
oh no, I haven't seen those.
Okay. It's just like a little gust of flowers surrounds you, or like a lot of fireflies show up.
Mm. So
But
like
it's
photo
kind
mode stuff.
yeah, it's kind of as I just the book I sent you a picture of earlier
Yeah.
today about the Bushido code and stuff. It's kind of in the Shinto.
Mm.
I'm not sure if it was Shinto or Buddhism. It's kind of the country and the land and the nature is kind of supposed to reflect in the way the human soul
Oh,
is
okay.
or something. So I feel like it's kind of touching on that.
Mm.
That's interesting though that they went that far. But I'm not
Yeah.
surprised considering how how much quality they put into the rest of it. And like I gotta say, if you, I mean, I'm sure the English dub is good and all, but if you're not playing this in Japanese, you're doing something wrong.
Were you bothered by the motion capture being in English?
uh, maybe like a handful of times throughout the entire 30 hours I spent with the game.
Oh,
So
wait. Just explain that the motion capture
The
is in English.
motion captured is like for the mouths is captured for the English
Ah,
dub.
right. Okay, so
yeah,
you can clearly kind of see that
So
it's
sometime
not synced.
like they say hi,
Yeah.
but in English, or it'll be subtitled as of course, right? So the
Okay.
mouth will
Yeah.
yeah,
move kind of longer than the word.
yeah.
Yeah. Then just a short. Yeah, I
I
understand.
felt this, especially if you play in Kurosawa mode, the black and white grainy mode.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
Mhm.
kind of gives it more charm because it reminds me of the old dubbed. Okay, obviously it goes the other way when the
yeah,
old
yeah,
like Japanese movies are dubbed to English.
yeah.
But I kind of just laughed it off as a reminiscence of that instead of being like bothered by it.
So instead of that being a negative, you actually turn that into being positive
Yeah.
for you. That's incredible. Yeah, but fair enough. Good. Um, in terms of performance, we kind of covered that, but a little bit of jankiness here and there. That's like that's all that you ever noticed. Maybe a little bit of frame drops,
No,
or you never
not
had
for.
any.
I didn't notice any frame drops,
Me neither.
Okay,
but the jankiness sometimes. But it's like
but
it's very
nothing.
yeah.
It didn't affect gameplay.
No.
Kind of, it didn't ruin it for you.
Well, I
No.
mean, maybe there was a couple of times where, but this is super nitpicks. But like, let's say if I was standing on a rock fighting, or like some kind of such as like a geometric object. Let's say I was standing on that. Let's say I jumped down to that, did a jumping attack or something, and the enemy climbed up to fight me.
Mm.
And this can be just like half a meter too. But and then you know if I try to dodge off the rock, he doesn't dodge off the rock. He just is being prevented from falling off. So he's just like kind of rolling in a standstill, like if it's a clutter
Yeah.
space, and then the enemy will hit you regardless. Uh, it's like things like that, but it's like small things. So if you remember that, if it happens to you once or twice in the heat of the moment, then you'll remember next time that all right, like I'll just normally go off the rock before I start dodging. So it's like it's no
Yeah.
biggie at all.
Hmm.
It's just these small things. But considering the amount of stuff they've done for this game, this kind of like small hiccups here and there, it just disappears completely in the overall package for me.
Yeah, and we need to touch on load times because
Yeah.
that is insane.
Are there any?
There's like
I mean,
maximum. I think the longest one I had was 10 seconds.
yeah, around the same here.
Seriously. But
Yeah.
how do they do? Is it just like the
Uh,
seamless loading?
I
They load in between action.
I heard they've because they they actually got some complaints that people didn't have time to read the tips on the loading screen. And then Sucker Punch came out and said we actually artificially lengthened the loading time so you would have time to read the the tips.
Seriously?
The
Yeah,
balls on them.
because they said normally when you like fast travel, right, or teleport,
Mhm.
you deload the entire area, right, and you have to reload it. But
Yeah.
in this game, like since there's no transitions like on the entire island, it's always loaded. So it's just Jin and like nearby characters and enemies that are like have to be loaded again.
Right.
So they found a smart way to do it. And
Yeah.
they're like Xbox and PlayStation, like for the new generation, where like we're gonna get rid of loading times and just Sucker Punch. Just hold on a second.
Yeah, and just imagine like this is the like epitome of developers who has been able to squeeze out every last drop of the
Mhm.
PS4.
Mm.
And what we're seeing now on the PS5 and the Xbox Series X is like that's just the beginning of what they can do on that because they've just started to develop on it.
I mean,
You
the,
just imagine the games that's going to come out at the end of the lifespan of the PS5 and the Xbox Series X.
yeah, I'm gonna throw some shots here or fire some shots, but
Yeah. Fire.
I mean, this
Hold
game
on.
looks like twice as good as Halo Infinite,
Yeah, and yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
and I
We
was
kind of
so
discussed that.
yeah, I was so happy when I heard the episode that you agreed with me, because I was like I was snoring through that almost that
Yeah,
entire press conference.
I
Yeah.
mean,
It was
like,
a little bit disappointing.
yeah, that's the thing. Like the Xbox showcase had a couple of interesting titles here and there, but ultimately it didn't wow at all. You know,
No,
like just
Oh.
and that's the thing. Ghost of Tsushima looks way better than Halo Infinite, and Halo Infinite is like, I mean, I heard that the point was to harken back to the graphics and the style of Halo One,
Mm.
but clearly there's more than that going on in that game.
yeah,
And if you look at the um, one of the earliest reveals of Halo Infinite, the where they actually show you know things happening in the world, it looks way better than what they showed at the showcase.
hmm
So
yeah.
I don't know.
But anyways, I still I just walk around. I kind of think, wow, this game is so fucking good and pretty.
Yeah,
Like after I played it, like it just comes to me sometimes, and I'm still amazed.
yeah, but I actually agree with you there.
Yeah.
I know how you feel because I also had times where I would just stop and stare, and I sent like tons of screenshots to Morbid M, our mutual friend, of essentially whenever I climbed a mountain or something like that. And he'd look over and he's like, "All right, I'll take like this looks amazing from this angle." So I took a picture, I sent him, and then I just I just turned my character to the other side. It's like, oh, and then another picture,
Yeah,
and
I,
it's just yeah,
you.
man,
It's easy to forget when you're playing,
yeah,
because you're kind of immersed, right? And you just like it kind of goes on, and the environment is there.
yeah,
Mm.
But you kind of need to take some time and just stop and just look, because
yeah.
there's one spot in particular. I'm not sure if you remember, but it's where you trained as a kid, right?
Ah, yes,
The circle with the red petals
yeah,
and the
absolutely,
lake in the background with the white tree. And if you
yeah,
position the camera right, you can have the snow covered tip of the mountain.
yeah,
And then if you position Jin on a horse in front of there with like the cloak and stuff and the
yeah,
windows, Jesus Christ.
yeah. There's your wallpaper for the next
Hmm
5 years. It really looks that amazing, and also let's touch a little bit on the cosmetics
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
dude.
there's so many styles you can have there, and just like not only the different armors but the dice as well. You can have, like, for a game that basically doesn't have gear drops, right? Like
Hmm.
this game, you can personalize your character to look so vastly different from others.
Yeah.
And I was astounded by how many masks, how many dyes, like color swaps and color palettes, and like not only that, but design as well, like patterns, these things, and how many things you can switch up, like everything from the sword to the bows to the to individually both your headband, your helmet, your mask. Like, there's so
Hmm.
many things that you can personalize, and there's so much to find. Sometimes you think like, all right, I thought I've collected all the stuff that is to find on the map, but then I finish up a storyline, a side story, and suddenly get a new die or a new cosmetic item, and I'm just like, whoa, what the fuck? This looks really cool. I'm gonna rock
Hmm.
that for a while.
Yeah.
And just so many cool things. And my character ended up looking very different than yours.
Yeah.
But it did. And
And that's a
yeah,
really cool aspect of the game, right? That you have a lot of kind of cosmetic configurability
yeah,
on your character. It makes the character feel like you built it.
yeah.
Throughout the course of the game.
Yeah.
So that's positive for those who like to hunt for cosmetics. But are there a lot of kind of substantial upgrades also for his weapons?
There's
How does that work?
upgrades for your swords and your bows for
Yeah.
like damage, and there's ammo capacity upgrades for all your items. And then you can
Yeah,
upgrade the armor for increased buffs.
but the armor upgrades is important to notice, is that they are cosmetic as well.
Hmm.
So your armor, as you improve it, will also get more elaborate.
All
While your
right.
swords and bows don't change appearance by upgrades, but that's where the dice come in.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
yeah, you get different styles of scabbards as well as colors and hilts and everything. Like the sword will essentially look completely different based on the dice, and the um, same for your armors, that you can get the different colors there as well, and all the different hats and whatnot. So fashionistas galore. They're gonna enjoy this game.
This sounds like the perfect game, guys. So, what more is there to say?
There's one more thing I want to touch upon with this game that
Yeah.
off the top of my head, at least. I'm sure there's given enough time,
Sure.
we'll find a lot more. But there was one thing that I really enjoyed with this game, and it's the inclusion of a lot of strong female characters.
Hmm.
Hmm.
There's so many of them in this game, and they're so believable too. It's not
Yeah.
forced on you. They're just there, and it's show don't tell. They are just naturally integrated in the story, and it's no agenda. It's just like they're just badass naturally.
Yeah.
They don't need
They're
any
well done.
explanation. Yeah, and just the main, I guess, heroine, Yuna. I absolutely loved her character. I thought her voice acting was on point. Her dialect of Japanese was on point. Everything, like, she's kind of like this bandit rogue kind of character, but she's such a badass, and she's the one who kind of like introduces
Yeah.
Jin to the more scummy ways to fight
Hmm.
in the very beginning. So this
Okay.
is not a spoiler, but that character also, like, her journey through the game was really well done. And there's several others in the game as well that were also standouts. um but I don't want to spoil that. I want, like, people to enjoy that for themselves, I feel.
Mm.
And,
Okay.
yeah.
Dan, do you have like any concluding words on the game or
Mm,
anything you want to?
yeah, there's a couple of things. Steph, did you ever climb the pagodas with your rope claw?
uh I know I climbed at least one,
Yeah, because
but
when you
I
get to the top, right, you get this music.
yeah.
It's a special tune that isn't part of any other part of the game. That is
Yeah,
so cozy.
the pagodas.
Mm.
I mean, yeah. uh all the subtle inclusions of culture as well, like how you pointed out that playing the flute actually changes the weather. I didn't notice
Mhm.
that, but you basically have an ocarina flute.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't notice that at all. I just played it. I thought it was just cool to, just approach the enemy playing a flute. Yeah. It's just kind of like the
And you-
bowing thing. I just thought it was like a, just a vanity thing for fun.
You would
Yeah.
actually get more voice lines, or at least from like random NPCs.
If you play the flute.
Now, if you bow to them, like
Oh
almost
shit!
every NPC in the game, like you bow to them, they say like "Ichirasai" or something like basic like greeting stuff. Where I don't understand. So
Like Itterashai and
yes, it's stuff like that.
Irashai. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Considering that means I was a rude fuck throughout the whole game. Even though I lived in the country for 4 years and I bowed more times than I care to admit, but I didn't bow to the fucking NPCs. Oh man.
Yeah, but you were playing the flute.
I was
You were
entertaining the
just-
Mongols before I killed them.
And
that's such a badass. You're just fucking. I picture this. You're riding slowly towards like a group of a patrol or something, just tooting away on your flute.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
fucking mind your own business. And then you're like, oh, some guys in my way. Just slaughter them down and just continue on playing the flute.
Yeah. You can live out. You can really role play like that, and I think that's like it makes it so cool and so memorable.
And you also have the opportunity or the like the choice of manually putting away your sword.
Yeah,
I did that after like 95% of every combat sequence in the game, just to
Yes.
see him dry off the blood.
yeah, and you know what always pissed me off with that?
No?
Whenever I kill the enemy, and I'm just like, I'm flicking the blood off all stylish, and I
Yeah.
sheath the sword, and then there's an enemy who's crawling on the
Yeah, I
ground, and I have
know,
to
I
stab him, and I have to do it again. I'm just like, fuck, dude, why?
But you did it again, right?
Yeah, of course.
Because you don't want your blade to rust.
Yeah, exactly. It's so funny. But it's
No,
just like,
there's one last thing I would like to touch on, which is these side quests. Because
yes.
you have side quests which are tales, right? Which are kind of more fleshed out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have like normal side quests, right? And I've seen some critique on these side quests because they are like very shallow.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of feel like they're supposed to be like that because a lot of them are like, "Oh, Ghost Sama, you need to help us, right?"
Yeah.
And then it all goes to shit.
Yeah.
And people die. But that's like
Yeah, it
that's
does.
what
Yeah.
it was when the fucking Mongols were raping and burning down the entire island.
Yeah. And let's just not to get canceled by any one of our 7 viewers. This was also the case for probably any kind of like being the recipient country of an invasion. It
Yeah.
happens. It's not
Yeah.
not exclusively to the Mongols. It's just
No,
in this
my
game.
bad.
Yeah, just saying.
I mean, we probably did some years ago as well.
I'm pretty sure we're from the Viking culture.
Yeah.
I don't think we were the kindest guests either.
No.
But I agree on the fact that like a lot of the quests would actually take turns that I wasn't expecting.
Mhm.
And they would usually turn out pretty grim too.
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna spoil how, but if you remember the one with the merchant, that was at like a survivor camp. I think it's in Act 2, where you find him and the other people are trying to drive him out, saying he's a traitor, and he's actually looking for his family.
Yeah. Yeah.
That quest, I was like, and that's just one of those like small side quests that people, one of those that are not a tale. But that quest,
Mhm.
I was like, oh, I mean, this was.
Yeah. Have you done the one with the villagers who have boarded up their house and they're scared of you?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one as well.
I mean, yeah. So ultimately, I feel like the people that say this probably didn't do most of them. They probably, because I'm sure there's like one or two you can nitpick, like, all right, this one is run of the mill. You rescue
Mhm.
the peasant or whatever, and they just like say the same thing, and you save them. But there are quite a few of them that have twists and turns as well, which
Yeah.
it really just small details that just makes it all the more. And that's all it takes to make it less repetitive,
Mhm.
So yeah, but
So, in conclusion,
yeah,
game of the year every year.
Yeah. I
Is it like
I
that?
think this year it's kind of hard to name this as Game of the Year because of the
Yes.
the new launches
Yeah.
coming.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
I kind of want to say it, even though.
Yeah. At least a strong number 2,
Hmm.
depending on how Cyberpunk turns out. So yeah, 30 dolphins out of 5 elephants.
Sounds about
Nice.
right.
Okay, so let's wrap it up. That was a Ghost of Tsushima, guys. It gets a very, very positive score from us,
Oh,
or from
definitely.
you guys. So you should, yeah, just go out and buy it.
If you have a
Mhm.
PS4, you owe it to yourself. You
Yeah.
have to buy this game.
And remember also to stay humid.
Stay dank.
Okay. See you next time.